We're now 2 days removed from Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad, UFC Vegas 21. Another event where you're marred back-to-back weeks with weird endings. We'll start from the main event itself. Leon Edwards against Belal Muhammad ended in the second round. Was it 18 seconds into the second round? Something like that, where Leon Edwards poked the crap out of Belal Muhammad's eye. Initially, when I was watching it, I thought he was BSing because he got poked. There was like a slight delay, and then he like shot his head back and then went down. And I was like, "Oh, get the hell up, you wuss!" And then he started crying, and I was like, "He's really selling this." And then he showed his eye. I'm like, "Oh no, he got pretty jacked up," which sucked because it sucks for both guys.
Yeah, hardcore.
We'll get into. I'll kind of dive into it too, but. Unfortunate ending because the first round looked good for Leon. Belal had like a little bit of time where you had him in the clinch, but Leon looked pretty crisp for someone that had not fought in about a year and a half or so. What were your initial reactions to the very brief fight that was the main event?
I mean, I thought round one, they were both kind of warming up. Belal is also one of those guys that he takes a couple of rounds to kind of get into the swing of things. And I think Leon, he says that there was no ring rust or anything like that, and I could definitely agree with him. I definitely think that first round was a warm up for him, though. But going into the second, man, I can see why the guy's ranked where he's ranked, And if that fight had continued 5 rounds, I don't even know if it would have gone 5 rounds at the pace Leon was looking to try to set. It's very possible we may have seen a KO at some point. Because he's not a joke, man. Those hits are huge. Those swings are massive, and Belal looked timid. It looked like he was concerned for most of it. At least that's my impression. He's not the same. He wasn't the same Belal that we had seen fight before, where he's the one being aggressive. He's the one trying to control the center. So it sucks, man, because I would have loved to have seen an actual conclusion to that fight. And yeah, as far as the eye poke goes, that was because he had been warned previously, because that was the second time he put his fingers out like that. And it's interesting because the ESPN commentators were talking about it after the fight, and there was this one guy on the panel who was making up a defense for Leon, saying that, he's a tall guy, he's a long guy, he needs to be able to do this with his fingers to be able to maximize his reach. I'm like, what are you saying, dude? Like, it makes no sense. And Mike Chiesa is sitting right next to him, and he's looking at him like with his eyes all squinty, like, you need to stop talking, bro. Like, you're completely off base here. There's never a reason for you to be, like this with your hands. If you're up here, I can see that. But this is, what are you doing? It was a complete accident. So I'm not trying to say that it was intentional. It obviously wasn't. That was nuts to see, dude, because the minute that they kind of cut close and you could see there was blood dripping out and stuff, I'm like, holy crap, dude, maybe he lost his eye. And there was even a point where I heard Belal saying he can't see. And that's where I was like, shit, like, that's not good, dude. That's not good at all. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a gruesome one on the second watch when I got the slower replay, because when it happened, I didn't really see if he actually got him or if he got the eye at all. And then when it showed again, I'm like, oh, dude, he like went inside his eye. That was brutal. So in regards to what you were saying, and like Belal looks not the same as his last one in terms of timidness, it did kind of look like that. Part of that might be the feeling out thing, but also it's the step up in the competition is like drastic, right? You go from who was fighting Lima, going from unranked Lima to number 3 Leon Edwards. So it sucks for Belal because he took a short notice fight, had a big upside for him. It was kind of a win-win in my opinion, barring a no contest, but I think it would have been a win-win. If he wins, obviously clear win there. And then if he loses, I mean, he took it on short notice. He fought someone that has been struggling to get a fight. Some reports are saying it's because of him. Some are saying his opponents don't want to fight him. Whichever side you want, still he stepped up with like a couple weeks, like 3 weeks notice when Hamza had to drop out again. So I thought it was really only upside for Belal outside of the result that ended up happening. And then on Leon's end, it sucks because this guy, again, we said it multiple times, hasn't fought in a year and a half. finally finds someone, gets into the ring, and then 5 minutes, 18 seconds in, the fight is called, and not because he won and not because he lost, but because he poked someone's eye.
Yep.
And the fight's a no contest. So he goes a year and a half and still does not have a result. I found it interesting how he said after he's not interested in running this back. He does not feel he needs to, and he feels he earned the title shot. That I don't agree with.
Yeah, and so that's another thing those commentators were talking about, and I'm kind of like, I don't understand that, dude. We've beat this horse to death, but you're coming back after a year and a half. You should fight. You should probably win a fight before you have a title shot, I think. You know, the same concept with Masvidal fighting Usman. Like, you don't deserve that. If anything, you know, Whitaker should be doing that, or, you know, have a rematch with Colby or something along those lines. So for me, it's kind of like, are you capable of taking the belt? Yeah. Do you deserve to have that shot now? No. But if he had gone on to beat Belal, then, you know, okay, maybe. But I don't know. It's such a weird thing to me. I don't understand why it's leapfrogging. It's the same thing that, you know, that Masvidal is basically doing. I see no reason why Masvidal gets to leapfrog all these other guys in the division and go straight for that title shot. So I don't know. I have no idea, man.
Yeah, the top 5 of this division, I've read a couple different places, people saying, and I do agree, the top 5 of the welterweight division is weird because you have, obviously, Usman as the champion. You have Colby, who hasn't fought, who had not, but prior to his fight with Woodley, hadn't fought for quite, I think his fight prior to that was Usman. So Usman fight was end of 2019. He fought Woodley sometime in 2020. Hasn't done anything else since. Then you have Gilbert Burns as number 2. Burns fought Usman, lost. Okay. Then you have Leon Edwards, like we said, hasn't fought in a long time. Then you have Masvidal. Masvidal's number 4. He hasn't fought since July of last year, and it was against Usman, and now his next fight might again be against Usman, possibly more than a year after he fought Usman already. And then you have Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson fought Jeff Neal, was it December, I think, of 2020, something like that, November, December. He beat him, but then he got hurt, so he's been on the shelf so far. Granted, at least to Stephen Thompson's credit, he called out Colby Covington. He's called out Colby Covington, and he's also said, look, if these guys aren't fighting, I'll fight Usman. So he's at least a little bit more active on that front. Then that's your top 5 right there. It's weird. Colby's not fighting anyone. Burns just lost. Leon just poked someone's eye out. Masvidal's not really doing anything either. He's just waiting on Usman, it seems. And then you have Thompson. It's weird situation up there because it's like, okay, well, so what do you do here? And again, like you were mentioning, let's say Leon were to have won. Okay, he beat Belal Muhammad. I don't know if that victory would have warranted a title shot. I know you weren't exactly sold on that 100% either, but it's like you fought a guy on short notice after a year and a half off.
I can see the 14th ranked guy.
It's a little bit more so than him getting a no contest and then still saying after that, yeah, you know, I think I deserve a shot. No. Again, had he won, you have a little bit more of a leg to stand on, but the fight didn't end because of a victory. The fight ended because you poked him. So this division, Leon, I think, ended the night with more no questions answered, just more of the same questions still up in the air.
At this point, I think Leon and Colby should fight because I mean Colby ducked Leon the last time around when it was being discussed, and we've said that was a mistake. You know, he should have taken that fight. I think this opens up an opportunity. Both fighters are fresh. Leon didn't take any damage. Colby should be fresh. You know, so
he for sure is, yeah.
Okay, you guys fight it out, and then whoever wins that gets to get that title shot. You know, like that's how I see it, and yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be an interesting fight. I don't know. Colby had an interview with Submission Radio. Today's Monday, the 15th, 2 days after the event with Edwards and Muhammad. I think he did an interview with Submission Radio either yesterday or today, and they were kind of asking him, like, you know, like, have you been talking with the UFC? What's going on? Who are you going to fight? And they talked a little bit, and ultimately by the end of the interview, it's not that he doesn't want to fight Edwards, and also it's not that he doesn't want to fight Thompson, because he gives everyone the nickname, right? Everyone's Leon is Leon Scott.
I don't know what he calls Wonder Boy, but he calls everyone something. He just kind of discredits everyone. He's been pretty dead set on no. It's either Usman or Masvidal. That's what I'm looking at. And then they asked him at the end, like, what about Wonder Boy? He called you out, and then he said some stuff, and then ultimately at the end they asked him, like, so are we going to see you fight this year? And he said, for sure you will see me fight this year. And then they said, I think they were kind of like, what if it's not Usman or Masvidal? And then pretty much he's like, pay me and I'll fight anyone. And obviously, I think for most of these guys, if you pay them whatever, they'll fight whoever. So it's not just like Colby is. I think that's why he keeps saying, I'm not doing it for charity. I'm not doing it for charity. Not because they're bums. Because again, if it was a matter of they're bums, I don't want to fight them. He wouldn't have fought Woodley. Woodley, he's leaps and bounds ahead of Woodley at this point. This isn't the same Woodley as years past. So it's not a matter of that. He's not wanting to risk fighting Stephen Thompson because he's a number 5 guy. No, it's nothing. I don't think it's like that at all for Colby. I think it's just, give him the money and he'll fight. Having said that, he said he had a call with Dana White. The call didn't go to how Dana wanted it. He said Dana just kind of hung up unhappy. So I don't know. Colby says he will fight this year. It's March, so there's plenty of time left, but I'm curious what the quota is that he's trying to get from the UFC to fight someone.
I don't know if he's going to get that. His whole shtick was he was, the MAGA guy. And now that Trump's out of office, what's his shtick going to be? He doesn't have a gimmick anymore, really.
He's still going with it. He's still going with it. Yeah, he is.
I don't know if that's going to be an effective.
He mentions Trump still, and he's still like he has a more he's leaning even more so into the whole pro-America, blue collar fighter deal. And look, man, Trump's been out of office now for a few months, but he still pulls in views. Like if you look at, he says it too, but if you look at like submission radios, anytime Colby's getting interviewed, they have a lot of views. Anyone else, it's not as many views. And he says that when he's on the show with them, he's like, you guys know I'm the one that brings in your ratings. And he's not wrong there. So he's still, granted, it's been fresh, elections it's been only two months or so since Trump's been out of office. So it's still fresh. Who knows how long it'll go, but it won't help him if he doesn't fight. If he's just on the sidelines, yapping away, it's not going to matter.
But that's what I'm trying to get at.
If they come back to Leon and with some money, he'll fight him. Otherwise, I don't know what the hell he's doing.
Well, that's exactly what I'm getting at. Like his whole shtick was that. And, maybe Dana doesn't feel like that shtick is enough to bring in the type of crowd that, warrants paying him the kind of money that he's potentially asking for. So like I can see it from Dana's point of view too, where it's like, look, dude, there's all these other guys. But then on the flip side of it, none of these guys are really that entertaining. Like Usman isn't really like entertaining like that. Masvidal, he's a character. You don't have an Adesanya really in this division where you're like, oh, look at him, dude. He puts on a show. Like, not really.
I don't know. I'm curious to see what they'll do next because again, outside the top, there's no pairings in the top 5 that I'm aware of that are going to be coming for the welterweight. I know Thompson threw his hat in the ring to fight Colby. I wonder if he's feeling. I wonder if his whatever the injury was. I forgot if it was his hand or leg or both. Whatever it was, I wonder if that's healed up. And Colby I think Colby was saying in an interview he wants like a normal full camp. I think that was part of why he said he didn't want to take that Edwards fight, is that he wasn't going to get a full camp and the pay he was seeking. They weren't giving him what he wanted to get paid while he wasn't going to get a full camp. So he's like, screw that, I'm not going to do it. So let's see now that Leon, I'm sure they're going to go back to, I can't imagine they don't go back to Colby at this one. Be like, look, Leon's pretty fresh. We can probably turn this around quickly. I'm sure he has been training. So if they say, look, 2 months and come June, July, you and Leon, here's whatever. I don't know how much he wants. I think if it's June, July, it's enough time. And it's enough time for him to even maybe turn out another fight by the end of the year if you get a fight by June, July for both of these guys. I know Leon was saying in prior interviews too, he wants to fight. He's obviously, for him, it's even worse. He hasn't fought for longer. I'm not really counting this last one either. So I think that's the fight to make at this one, man.
Yeah, Colby should
I think it's the fight to make, Leon and Colby. I think it should be Burns. Maybe you could do Burns and Thompson. I don't know what the hell they're doing with Masvidal. So I'm operating on the assumption that this Usman and Masvidal is going to get booked. So if that's the case, then the next thing that makes most sense for Colby is going to be either Leon, and then if not Leon, I would say sure, Stephen Thompson then does kind of make sense. But I don't know if that's being looked at. Not even necessarily from Colby's vantage, but from the UFC. I don't know if the UFC is even looking at that yet. I think they would maybe rather see him fight Leon, or I'm sure they would have been happy with having him fight maybe Masvidal some time ago, but I don't know. They've been pretty mum on it ever since we did that video about, hey, is it going to be Usman and Masvidal? And Masvidal also put out a video on his own official YouTube alluding to them being him and Masvidal fighting, him and Usman in September. And then after that, Usman's manager Ali says, nope, that's not happening. Like, it's not a done deal. And ever since that, there's been no word on it. So I don't even know if that's an official thing or not. I haven't read anywhere else any hints or anything. So I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see with this division what the heck's going on. It's a little bit of a weird gray area they're in, but that's where they are right now. So that was our main event. And then after the co-main was between Ryan Spann and Misha Sirkanov. Quick one. Could have looked like for a second it was going to be even quicker than it actually was. Ryan Spann knocked down Misha with a pretty good hit, but then he somehow made it out of that, and then got knocked back down again, and then didn't really make it through the second wave.
I mean, yeah, this was a really quick one. There were a bunch of really quick knockouts, man, and this is one where I got to be honest, I kind of saw it going this way. I usually take the grapplers, I take the jiu-jitsu guys, but I don't know what it was about Spann, just watching his his highlight reels from his past fights. I'm like, dude, this guy is one of those where if you mess up and he catches you on the chin, you're going down, dude, and that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. So, and he's got wrestling chops too, so that's kind of interesting too. But you didn't really see any of that. You just saw that quick KO, and that's it, game over. I mean, there's really not much to say about this one. It was
that's really all it was. Misha got rocked pretty good.
Yeah,
we'll see what's next for Spann in the light heavyweight division. Another quick one, but geez, was it an emphatic one. Right before that, we had Dan Ige and Gavin Tucker. I believe Dan Ige stepped in for this fight. I don't think it was originally between these two. I think Tucker was going to fight someone else. Can't remember who. Something came up. Ige stepped in and knocked him out in like 22 seconds, 23 seconds. And I wasn't expecting that power from Dan Ige.
No.
He's a fun fighter. His last fight was against Calvin Kattar, and that one was a war. I believe it went the distance. It was a 5-rounder. I think it went to decision. Calvin won. It was one of the first events, I want to say, on Fight Island back in July. I was kind of thinking, maybe this goes the distance too. I think we both had picked Gavin Tucker to win this one.
Yep.
He was a slight underdog. Dan Ige immediately shut that down.
Yeah, no, it was. What else are you supposed to say, man? We didn't get to see anything except for an amazing knockout.
Landed. Yeah. He just landed, and geez, man, Gavin just went down, and Ige just walked off, and that was geez, yeah.
The crazy part is it says 22-second knockout, but for me, it felt like it happened within the first couple seconds, and even
that's what DC and Bisping were saying too.
Yeah, they were like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean? It was 22 seconds? No, it was like 4 or 5 seconds. Nah, dude."
Because I was really confused. They're like, that was a 3-second knockout. I was like, what the hell? What do you mean? Was that the fastest knockout in UFC history? And I was like, no, wait, dude. There was some tap dancing before that, and then I forget the other guy's name. He stepped in. He's like, no, it wasn't 3 seconds. It was 22 or whatever. I was like, okay, that makes more sense. But I guess it felt like 3 seconds because when they finally did converge and engage, as soon as they started, it ended.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, geez, props to Dan Ige. Let's see where he goes from there. Prior to that, we have Jonathan Martinez, Davey Grant. We both took Grant in this. I took Grant because of his last fight. Can't remember who we fought, but I think he was an underdog in that one too. And he came out and took that one. And he took care of Jonathan Martinez in this one too.
Yeah. So I was really looking forward to this fight. I had a feeling it would be a good fight, and it did not disappoint. They both were just kicking at each other, man. Huge leg kicks. Grant, when he was swinging, it was from the hip. It was just full body movement, like undercuts and overhand swings and stuff.
He kept doing that switch with his legs. You switch his legs and then throw like a hook looking thing. I don't even know what the right word for it be. But he kept doing it, and then he did it again at the end, and that's how he got him.
I think that's what had Martinez confused for most of the fight was because he looked like he didn't know how to handle the stance switching, even though every time Grant would switch stances and go into southpaw, Martinez would eat his leg up, so it was kind of like he had an idea that this was happening, but it still seemed to have kind of thrown him off. I don't know. Either way, it was a great fight, man. I was really happy to get to watch that one.
Yeah, big day for the English fighters and Canadian fighters. I feel like that's what it was highlighted. The Englishmen and the Canadians were very prevalent on this card. But good win for Grant. I think those are two fights in a row for him that weren't really maybe expected to go his way, but he took him, and that's again in the bantamweight division.
He actually
where he goes.
He broke his foot, right?
His foot looked jacked up. He was not walking well. And then when they zoomed in on it during the interview, it was just absolutely purple. I'm curious what it looks like now. I'm curious what it looked like Sunday. I don't know if they definitively said if it was broken, but he was barely walking out of that octagon. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was.
I heard him telling Dana he was hanging over the octagon telling him, I think I broke my foot. Like he's got this big smile on his face. Like, all right, dude.
With the leg kicks that they were both throwing,
they're huge, man. They're massive.
Yeah. Props to them both. And it's funny because he mentioned that, and then he's like, yeah, I want to go fight again soon. He's like, I want to fight again immediately. I'm like, dude, you can't walk. So let's see how. I haven't heard anything about on the injury front. So if it's nothing there, maybe they try and turn him out quick. I think his last fight wasn't too long ago either. Can't remember when. Obviously, a lot of these events are starting to merge together. But
July 11th against last year, Martin Day.
That was the last one.
Yeah, July 11th.
Also, it had been quite a while. I felt like his fight was more recent because I remembered him surprisingly.
Was that almost a year?
Then, yeah, almost a year. So who knows? Let's see when he's going to fight next. Prior to that, we had the flyweights Manel Kopp against Matthias Nicolau. This was a fun fight.
Awesome fight.
Again, we've talked about the flyweight division a few times when we've been mentioning other fights. Given where the state of this division appeared what it was possibly not that long ago and where it is now. Now I feel like every time I see a flyweight fight coming up, I'm looking forward to. These guys are quick. They're fun. They still pack some power. And this fight was a questionable decision. I would say on who won the fight, but it was still a fun fight to watch. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And speaking of power, man, Kopp has some power behind his swings for a flyweight. Yeah, dude. The problem was he wasn't really landing any of them, and whenever they would go to the ground, Nicolau would basically neutralize him. So he didn't really know what to do on the ground, and that's kind of, I think. I don't agree with the scoring at all because I had it, I had the first round for Nicolau and I had the second and the third for Kopp. So, I definitely don't agree with the way they scored it. Do I understand? Maybe I can. I don't know. It's, these judges are
all three judges had the first round to Nicolau, like you said.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The one judge that had scored for Kopp obviously had the next two rounds going for Kopp. And then the other two judges that scored it for Mateus gave round 2 to Kopp and then gave round 3 to Nicolau. So the two deciding judges gave rounds 1 and 3 to Nicolau, round 2 to Kopp. I think the detriment for Kopp in the third round was the first 3.5, 4 minutes. He wasn't doing anything. He was just going around and the volume was on Nicolau. And finally he started throwing it towards the end and he made an impact to end it, but he didn't do anything that first 3.5, 4 minutes. I think that's ultimately what hurt him. I think the volume kind of ended up being close. I don't remember what the round 3 numbers were, but the overall numbers
had more significant strikes
overall or in
the third.
In the third, he did have more.
Yeah, he had more in the third, and I don't think Nicolau got any takedowns or any ground control time in the third. So I was like, well, if you're scoring based on rounds, that round clearly went to Kopp. I don't know why you would think that it didn't. There was no ground.
He ended in a flurry. The final numbers were 61-55 in favor of Kopp, with 2 takedowns in favor of Nicolau, none for Kopp.
Yeah, those takedowns were in the first 2 rounds, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I just remember watching that third because especially the way Kopp Cop's second round was excellent.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
He clearly lost the first round, but he completely took back momentum in that second round, and he looked really good. There was a couple moments where I'm like, he might somehow finish it off here. When the round ended, I'm like, dude, if he continues on that, how he ended that second, or how, not even how he ended it, but just how the second went overall, he's going to be fine. And then just was silent just to start the third. And I was very surprised. I was like, dude, you completely took over that second round. Why didn't you capitalize in the third until the end?
He wasn't capitalizing in the second either, though. And that's something that I wrote down here and I find interesting is he would have his opponent on the back leg. So Nicolau would be backed up into the cage, or he would be backing up, or he would be completely open, and then Cop wouldn't take any swings or wouldn't put any pressure on him. And I found it bizarre. Like, it made no sense to me, like you got this guy up into the cage, he's moving away from you. You've already swung a couple times. Why are you not pressing your advantage there? Instead, you're giving him time to squirrel his way out of there. And it doesn't make any sense unless he was just tired and he didn't feel like he could end it by doing that. But he didn't look.
I don't know if it was that, but yeah, exactly. That's the thing. He didn't. These flyweights always assume these guys don't get tired. I'm just like, they'll go. They'll just keep going. I was just as confused in regards to that. But how the third round went in terms of, like, he was quiet initially and then he kind of ramped it up. That's the only thing I could think of as to why he didn't win that fight. Because I think round 1 and 2 was a clear 1-1. Yeah. Round 3 was the way, which is funny because you see a lot of several fights we've watched where a person is dominating the third round. Like, let's say again, they're going in 1-1, they're dominating round 3. But then the person that was getting dominated in round 3 turns it on the last 30 seconds, minute. And then because of that, they end up getting the fight. This was the opposite. He was getting not dominated the first 3.5, 4 minutes, but he also wasn't really having as much of an output. At least that's how it appeared. That's how it felt to me. And then he clearly turned it up to end it. And I was like, well, given how he ended it, maybe they'll give it to him. And then they didn't. So again, the scoring is always, fight by fight. You don't know what the hell's going to happen.
We should, what we should do, man, is a segment on how this stuff actually gets broken down. Because I have no idea how the judges actually score. Like, do they know how many strikes each fighter has done live?
Yeah,
let's say they're
sure.
Yeah, I'd be curious to find that out. And I think, we could probably crank something out helping detail that a little bit more, because I would want to know, like, do they sit there and actually see the numbers? Like, this guy had X many hits, this guy had X many takedowns, or is it just whatever they see, they
what
go
they
off
remember?
Yeah. So it'd be interesting. We can research that a bit and maybe put out a more polished video on like what that process is like and how it goes down. Because I didn't think that this was a correct call.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that is either, because you'll hear during the fight when they're mentioning the strike figures or the takedown figures, they'll say the unofficial totals as of now or whatever. Now, I don't know if they finalize it in between rounds or they'll finalize everything once that fight is concluded. That I'm unsure of, but several times I'll hear them say, and the unofficial strikes are X and Y. So if it's not finalized until the end, then maybe they don't have a live count, given that live count isn't the quote unquote official figures. But how they do it, I just intuitively, I'm thinking they just kind of watch it, and whatever they watch, maybe they're taking notes or whatever with it. And that's kind of what they go off of that. But that could very well not be the case. Maybe they do have some kind of count, even if it's the unofficial figures, just so they have something to work with in case they have like a round where they're like, well, crap, who took that one? That seemed pretty close. So you look at the figures like, okay, he had 5 more than the other guy. All right, makes sense. We can look into it and see. Hopefully there's some kind of info out there, because a lot of the officiating stuff seems just great. It's just like, I don't know. They just do whatever. And it seems like the fighters aren't even sure either. A lot of times they're just like, all we know is finish the fight. Don't let it get to the judges.
Yeah, I'm sure it's different from like commission to commission too. Because I think the judges stick with, like, if you're in Nevada, they're with Nevada. If you're in New York, it's with New York. So they may have different variances between how they do things there too.
I know there's different commissions. I don't know if they employ the same judges, or I don't know if certain judges are exclusive to certain states. I don't know. It's another thing we can see if we can pop out. Because at this point, at this point, given the number, granted, a lot of them have been in Vegas, like I'm already becoming familiar with the names of the judges when I see them pop up. But again, especially the last year, they've primarily been in Vegas. So if it is a commission by state is certain judges, or certain states have certain judges, and then these other states have these judges, that might be why I'm under the impression it's the same judges, because of the last year, all but like 5, 6, 7 events or whatever have been in Vegas. The rest have been in Abu Dhabi, and then the first few were in Florida. So yeah, we can look into that, get a more definitive answer on that. And then what kicked off the main event card was Eryk Anders versus Darren Stewart, and 5 was, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights on the main card. Two ended in no contest. We obviously had Jan and Sterling the week prior that ended in a disqualification. This one ended the same way. Stewart had a knee down against the fence, and Anders got him in the head. I think they were saying, I only saw the initial shot. I didn't see the instant replays after, but I heard them saying, he had his hand up, so it kind of took the blow. It wasn't as impactful as Jan's. And it didn't, even when I saw it that one time, it definitely didn't seem as impactful. But this one was one of those, when it happened, I'm like, so is the fight a no contest? Is it a DQ? Do we have a winner or a loser, or is it just up in the air? Ended up being a no contest.
Yeah, so this is I had taken Stewart as my pick for this one, and he was kind of disappointing, man. He looked like he just completely ran out of energy towards the end of the round, and I think Anders would have taken that fight if it weren't for that knee. I think he would have legitimately taken the fight if it had continued. Then again, you never know. Stewart maybe could have come up with a KO out of thin air or something, but if it had gone to decision, there's no way that I don't think he was gonna win that fight. As far as the knee goes, man, like I can't believe we had another one back to back. It's like, are these guys just watching each other's tapes and going like, "Ooh, that looks
trying to one up"?
yeah. Like maybe I should throw one in there, but it goes to show. I think that the Piotr one, everybody's saying it was an intentional knee. It was an intentional knee, and I'm like, okay, it was an intentional knee, yeah, but like, so
I don't think it was malicious.
Yeah, I don't think there was any.
they didn't accidentally launch their knee. Like, they have Tourette's, and it's intentional.
Yeah, I'm gonna knee you right now. So you can't say it was accidental. No, there's no accidental knee. I guess the question comes down to, was there malicious intent behind it? I don't think Piotr's knee had any malicious intent behind it. So
nor this one,
obviously not. Or the same with the eye poke that we were talking about earlier in the episode. There was no malice behind that. It just happens, dude. So I think that Piotr's DQ was clear BS, man. That shouldn't have happened. It should have gone to no contest, the same as these two fights did, because that makes sense to me. Like, a DQ should be reserved for if it's like, no, this guy actively tried to hurt this person, like the Tim Elliott fight. If Tim Elliott had really hurt Espinosa, you could easily say, oh no, he was trying to do it, because he was literally saying, like, he was talking smack to him in the ring, for a different reason. But if he had significantly hurt him, that would have been with malice easily, because he had reason to be doing all of that. What reason did Anders have to knee Stewart, really? What reason did Jan have to knee Aljamain? What reason did Edwards have to poke out the eye of Belal Muhammad? So I don't know. I think maybe the no contest is the right decision for these kinds of things. And I definitely think that the Piotr one should have probably been a no contest too. And the only reason you didn't see any DQs here is because they didn't want to have another fiasco on their hands.
So when that happened, as soon as it happened, even the commentators were kind of unsure while they were still hashing out what's going on. Commentators were also unsure. I was unsure. I was thinking, it's okay, this happened last week, so this means that Anders is going to get DQ'd and Stewart wins. But then DC kind of speculated, well, they're both like, wait, so is this the same? And then DC was saying, given that this is in round one, maybe because it's earlier in the fight, it won't be a DQ. Maybe it'll be a no contest. And I think one of the guys, or maybe like the tweets started coming in and they were like, no, man, that doesn't make any sense. Why the hell would that matter? Which is what I was thinking. I was thinking, yeah, why would it matter if it was in round one or round three or round two, or if it's a 5-rounder, if it's round 4? If the knee's the knee. Like, why does the duration of when it happened signify anything? And then it turns out DC was actually right, because once they announced that it was a no contest, they mentioned what the rule was. It was a two-parter. The first part was because it was in the first round, and the second part was something. I don't remember if it was like intent or impact or given. I feel like maybe they mentioned, since it was kind of, the blow was a little bit mitigated by the hand, something. It was a two-parter, but I remember the first part they mentioned was that it was in the first round. So that was part of it, which again, I'm not fully understanding why does that matter when it was. Is it because like less than half the fight has happened, so there shouldn't be a determination? Like I can't think of anything. Maybe there is a reason that makes more sense if it's presented, but given that I'm unaware of what that is, yeah, I'm in agreement with you. If Piotrs was a DQ, then this should be a DQ. If this was in the DQ, then Piotr shouldn't have been a DQ. So I don't know. I can't remember what that second part was, and the first part of it being earlier in the fight doesn't really make sense to me.
There was another weird thing that happened where I think his name's Joe Martinez, the announcer for Saturday's fights. Yeah, your favorite guy in the UFC, man. I saw him lean into Herb, and he goes, "So how are we scoring this, or what are we calling this? Blah blah. No contest." And Herb said, "No decision." And I hadn't heard anything like that before, so that also brought up a question like, wait, is there a no contest and a no decision? Is that like a boxing thing, or what? What does that mean? But then they've got this down as no contest. But I clearly remember Herb saying no decision, not no contest, because he was even asked like no contest or no decision. So I think it'd be really interesting to do a video on the MMA rules, how the judging breaks down. We could focus on, let's say, the Vegas commission, and I'm interested at this point. So I'm sure there's plenty of people that would be interested in learning what the actual rules are and what all this stuff means.
Regarding that interaction between Herb and Joe Martinez, the only thing I can think of as to why he said no decision versus no contest is maybe just in that moment he was just like, yeah, no decision, because I've never heard of no decision either. So you're saying you heard Martinez say this or that, and he answered with, I don't even know why he gave that. I've never heard of a no decision in MMA. Again, I don't know if that's a boxing thing, but because when they said, obviously they announced it as no contest, right? They didn't say no decision, or didn't Joe Martinez say no decision?
I think he said no decision.
I guess it's just a synonym at that point. It's no decision is no contest, because even hearing it, I'm like, I mean, it's the same thing, because no contest doesn't have a decision. So to me, like, no decision, it's the same thing.
And then why would Herb say no decision? Yeah, that's possible.
Maybe it was a brain fart. I don't know, in that moment. And then again, like when he said that, and then he lifted up Eryk Anders' hand. He's like, oh wait, no, he didn't win. He put it down. So maybe Herb was kind of scrambling, because he had the interaction with the doctor too, trying to figure out what are we doing. He was talking with Stewart, so he maybe wasn't fully there. But to go back to earlier, what you were saying about how that fight was looking prior to that fight almost was going to be stopped. I thought earlier in the fight they were going to stop it, and Stewart already looked like his bell was rung. I thought maybe it should have been called. I had Stewart in this one. I had some Skittles on it, so that's why in the end the no contest wasn't great and it wasn't bad for me. But I seriously thought it was going to be called earlier, because he didn't look good. I'm like, oh man, call this thing, man. He already looks like he's not fully there, because by the time he kind of got on his feet, he looked wobbly.
Oh, he was wobbly, dude.
Because he was on the ground. He got back up and he didn't look good. And Anders was giving it to him. I was expecting it to be called, and we had this was early. Oh, it was 4:37 in round one when it was called. What, 4:37 to go?
No, that's
4:30. A minute something left. Okay. Yeah. So significant strikes. You had 44 versus 16. And they were in succession. They were quick ones. He was just giving it to him. But Herb can sometimes be generous.
He was trying to be. He was definitely trying to be, because I agree with you. I think Herb was probably going to call it, and then maybe looked at the clock and was like, well, if he can survive through this, then I'm not going to call this one early. Because as winded as he looked and as wobbly as Stewart looked, maybe going and taking a seat and having some water and having some ice rubbed on him may have like brought him back to life for the second. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely had Anders taking that round, and I think he probably would have laid Stewart out in the second if they had been allowed to continue. Yeah, so
if somehow he made it to that, that's how it was looking. And I expected Stewart to win, because he fought Kevin Holland last. He was, I think, maybe the third person in Kevin Holland's streak, or the fourth person on that streak. and it went to decision. And Holland actually after the fight said, like, I wasn't overly happy with that. He's like, I actually thought, maybe he even won the fight. I don't remember if it was a split decision or if it was a unanimous 29-28 for Holland, but it was a close one. It was a split. So there you go. So he was even after the fight, he's like, look, man, if he wants to run that back, I'm all for it. So I was basing it off of that. I think Eryk Anders also won his last fight, but I was just thinking, like, dude, Holland, given how he fought last year and given that Stewart almost beat him, I figured that should probably lead to Anders winning. And the line was fairly close on this. I don't remember Stewart being like, wait, I think it was like minus 180 or something. So, not fairly close, but also it's not like a heavy favorite. But he almost, again, I think it should have been called. It ended up being a no contest. So whatever. But I don't know. It was just weird how you have it back-to-back weeks, and not only back-to-back weeks, but then that second week you have two events that go to no contest. Yeah. So hopefully not a third. Hopefully not next week or this coming week, I should say. So that one was the opener of the main card. I think the main card had potential to be really good. The three fights that did have a result were great. You had a split decision, you had a KO and another KO. Oh, sorry, we had 4 out of the 6. So we had 3 KOs and a split decision. So the main card, I think the overall event could have been fantastic had the first and the last of the main card had an actual decision in terms of from the fight, not a no contest. But still, I thought it was a good main card. I think, a little bit more well-rounded than last week's. Maybe not a favorable opinion, but overall, I thought it was more well-rounded. And then to end the prelims, we had Angela Hill, Ashley Yoder. Pretty one-sided and dominant performance by Angela Hill. I don't really have too much to add to it. This was a rematch. They fought earlier. Angela Hill won that first one as well. Pretty easily took this one. She was a super heavy favorite. I think she was like minus 380 or something. And yeah, easily took care of business.
Yeah, Hill's a good fighter, man. I mean, she had some big hits at the end of round 1. Same in round 2.
And some round knees, 3, man. She was giving some serious knees to the body. There was one of them where she gave one, and it looked like Yoder started to favor that right side, and I was like, oh, that must have cracked a rib or something. And Hill kept working. I'm props to Yoder. She was pretty tough through that fight because I was pretty confident something was broken on that right side, and she ate several more knees after, and she did not buckle. A very dominant performance by Hill, but kudos to Yoder for not going down at any point after those knees, because those are some heavy ones to the body.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she showed that she's a decent fighter, man. I think she might need to work on her conditioning a bit, because towards the going in around 3, she looked like she was out of gas basically, and she
probably just couldn't breathe.
Yeah, maybe she got a takedown on Hill, but she couldn't really capitalize on it. So it's unfortunate for her, but it just goes to show you how good Angela Hill is, man. And she's on her way to dominate that division. So
I think she has the most wins in that division now, or the most fights or something. She has a lot of fights and wins in the strawweight division for the women. So congratulations to her. Prior to that, this was a fight right before it started. I messaged you. I was like, bro, look out for this one. Look out for Charles Jourdain. It was him and Marcelo Rojo. Almost went the distance. And if it did go the distance, I think that would have been, it was going to be a clear win for Jourdain either way, but I think that would have been the first victory for Jourdain that was not decided in the fight. I think it would have been his first decision victory, if I'm not mistaken. This was his 11th win. The other 10 were decided before the fight, before the end of the third, because I don't think he's had any main events. And dude, this guy's fun. He's fun to watch, but Rojo put up a fight too. It was a fun fight overall. It wasn't like a one-sided beatdown. It was a fun fight, but Jourdain's exciting, highlighted by that fence jump leading into like a sledgehammer punch. This guy's a featherweight. I was going to say bantam, but still exciting guy who I don't know if we can even call him a prospect anymore. Maybe we see him in the rankings tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe, man. I mean, I had taken Rojo as my pick for this one. I was thinking maybe you'd see Rojo go for some more submissions, maybe some more takedowns, but there wasn't really much of that because he's got a significant amount of submission wins under his belt. He's also got knockout power, but none of that really materialized for this fight. They both were trading in a fantastic fashion in the first round, and Rojo was launching some knees at Jourdain, so that was kind of cool to see. He was just chugging along, man. He just got knocked down in the third, and that final hit is what kind of put put him like a little wobbly, and that was it. After
it was this fight, right, where Rojo like ultimately he just like took himself down and he just like was like I'm done. Yeah, and a good decision, man. He looked like he got shot in the head. The blood was just like all right there. Yeah, I think it was a good thing he just went down. The fight was almost done, but I don't think he needed to take any more damage because Jourdain was just like building up as the fight was going on. He was just getting more and more powerful and more dominant. But that was another exciting performance by Jourdain. And he did give credit to Rojo after when they were interviewing him. They asked him, anything that you didn't expect, anything that you were maybe planned for or hadn't planned for because you weren't anticipating. And he said Rojo was tougher than he anticipated. He said he got him a few times where it hurt him, but that was so he gave him credit there. And you could tell in the fight, like, again, it wasn't a one-sided beatdown. It was an entertaining fight. I think they both got bonuses, or Jourdain, I think, got a bonus. I think for sure Jourdain did. I don't know if they gave it. No, that's the thing. They gave Jourdain a bonus. I don't think they gave it a performance of the night. They just gave it, I think they gave it a performance, but not a fight, if I'm not mistaken. But I think Jourdain definitely deserved the 50K for himself. I could argue Rojo maybe should have gotten one too for like one of the fights of the night or something.
I mean, I don't think it was one-sided either, man. I mean, if he didn't get a bonus, I think that'd be unfortunate because the guy put up a hell of a fight.
Yeah, I can't off the top of my head. I can't remember who they did give the fight of the night to. They did tweet it, but I don't recall.
How do we do this? Vegas 21 bonuses.
UFC Vegas 20 bonuses. Yeah, was it Davey Grant and Martinez, or was it maybe Nicolau and Cobb? I can't remember. Well, while you look it up, I'll just lead us into the next one. So prior to that, we had Ronnie Yaya against Ray Rodriguez. Fairly easy work for Ronnie Yaya. What was his 20th submission win or something?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I took Yaya on this one. I think you had Rodriguez, I want to say, or did you have Yaya? No, you had Yaya.
Yeah.
I was kind of speechless watching that.
So let me wrap up the previous conversation. So Ige got performance of the night. Spann got a bonus. Davey Grant got a bonus. Semelsberger got a bonus.
Also, Jourdain didn't get anything.
No, those were the UFC performances of the night.
I don't know if they gave a fight of the night then. They may not have given one.
Grant and Semelsberger.
They may have cheaped out and not given a fight of the night, which is unfortunate because there was a couple of good fights, and it's the one before this one was as well. We'll wrap up the Yaya one because there wasn't really too much here, but there was a lot of control time for Yaya. And that triangle choke, I want to say, was like his third or fourth attempt at it. He tried it a couple times. Yeah. But he finally broke through and got him, and geez, man. Yeah.
Dude, his pressure is nuts. Like he just won't stop coming for you. And Rodriguez is going to do anything. Or you try to get out of there, and it was like, no, where are you going? Come back here. It's. And I have down here as a note, this is what Garcia should have done to Hawkfrost. So we'll talk about that one next. But the pressure, man, was nuts watching it. It was great. It was a great grappling fight. Yaya's, I think he hadn't fought for a while, if I'm not mistaken. So this was kind of his getting back into the gym.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh no, he did March of 2020. So a year, almost a year to date. So March 14th, 2020 and March 13th, 2021 were his last two.
Also, he fought. I think that was the last event before the pandemic. Then that may have been on the Adesanya pay-per-view.
No, Lee versus Oliveira.
Oliveira. Oh, okay. So maybe that was the one after. Then. Interesting. Well, props to Yaya. That's another bantamweight there. So let's see. He looks old, man. I don't know how old he is. He looks like an older guy.
He's 36,
okay. So I don't know what he'll do from here. Not saying he'll retire, but trajectory-wise, I'm not sure where he goes.
His whole thing is that ground game, man. So I think any of those dudes that focus more on that, you could probably stretch the age a little bit more because you're not so
taking damage either.
Yeah, man. Like your whole game is different, So I think you could probably go for another couple of years, especially if he performs the way that he performs, man. Like, you could easily milk that. And it's funny you bring up his age, because he was being interviewed by Cormier, and he's like, I just want to tell you, man, for somebody of my age and knowing how old you were when you got your championships, I look up to you a lot, and blah blah blah. And like, all right, so he's got to focus on the championship possibly, man.
Hey, I mean, I didn't know him coming into this. I don't think anyone really knows him outside of actual fans, but if he can make a run, props to him. I mean, it's a scary ground game that he showed. And prior to that, you alluded to it slightly earlier. We had Nasrat Baras against Hafa Garcia. Hafa Garcia stepped in late, super late. I don't know. He didn't have that much time for this fight. I forgot who Baras was fighting before. I don't know if the guy got COVID, something happened. So Hafa stepped in. He came in undefeated, got his first loss. And he was a pretty heavy underdog as well, if I remember correctly. Can't remember the line off the top of my head, but he was a pretty heavy underdog. You had Garcia, if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
in this one. I had Baras. It started pretty even. I think when round one ended, let me see what the judges scored it, but it was pretty close. But as the fight continued, Baras just wore down Garcia, and Garcia, you could see very clearly, was fading as more and more time went, and Baras was just gaining as more and more time went.
Well, the thing that irritated me about this fight, I took Garcia because he's a grappler, he's jiu-jitsu. So I'm watching, I'm like, well, he's also got a boxing background, to be fair to the guy, but Baras is a through and through boxer. So I'm watching going like, why are you trading with him? Like, are you trying to prove something here? Like, nobody's doubting your ability to box. You're doing a great job. You're trading with him. You're eating his punches and, still standing on your feet. So good job on that. But why are you not executing more takedown attempts? Because there were only a handful that I remember, and they weren't even. They were up in the clinch, if I'm not mistaken. There weren't any shoots. There was nothing, or sweep attempts, nothing where I could be like, all right, he's attempting to neutralize Baras' arms. Because if he had tried, at the very least, to neutralize him, I'd be like, okay, the strategy didn't work. Switch it up, try to outbox him. But you didn't even try to take him down. You didn't even bother shooting. You didn't bother to try to sweep him or do anything to get him down onto the ground. So it was strange to me. It was very strange. Also, considering that he's 7-0 on submission wins. So his win-loss ratio, 7 of those are from submissions. What are you doing, dude? Why are you trying to trade with a boxer? I don't get it.
Yeah, 3 takedown attempts in total.
It's not enough. It's not even close to
enough.
What
you know what it maybe could have been. So like I mentioned, the first round was pretty competitive. So I'm looking at the judges' scorecards now. 2 of the first 3 gave round 1 to Garcia. So try to get into his head. Maybe he saw how round 1 went. They were standing. Maybe he felt confident. He's like, you know what, this is his game, standing up. Maybe more coming in, maybe it was more anticipated that he'll be able to take the standing game versus me. But I felt pretty good about that round 1, and maybe he wanted to keep it there. Obviously, I think round 2 was clearly that he didn't win that. But maybe again at that point, he's like, you know what, it's 1-1. I still feel pretty good based off that first round, how I looked on the feet. Try and finish it on the feet. I can't think of anything else either. When you know what your strong suit is and where a majority of your wins are by submission, that's the only logical thing I can reach. Is he had a good first round on his feet. I figured maybe I can take him in the third on his feet, even though we were going in 1-1, but that did not happen.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, man. I just I don't know why you would think that this guy, and maybe it didn't feel that way to Garcia getting hit by Baras, but I'm watching him get hit, going like, that has to be hurting you, dude. Why are you still trying to do this? The strategy is not working out. I don't know, man.
I don't remember the strike totals entering round 2. Because again, watching it looked close in round 1. Like, it doesn't surprise me that 2 judges gave it to Garcia.
Yeah.
But so let's assume it was fairly close, maybe a difference of a couple significant strikes. It ended with double the connections for Baras. He had 99 significant strikes versus 52. So imagine you had the round 1 was probably fairly close in strikes, and he ends it 2 rounds later with almost double the strikes. And that it definitely felt that way as you watched it. Again, for me, it was very clear. I was like, dude, he is just gaining power and momentum as this fight goes on. He got much more crisp. I think maybe he was underestimating Garcia, frankly, when the fight started too. Because again, this wasn't who he was originally going to fight. Maybe he didn't have that much info on him. It was the last second guy that stepped in. And maybe that was also part of the advantage that Garcia had in that first. He's like, well, he doesn't really know who I am. I don't really know who he is either, but well, it's more pressure on him than it is me. This is his fight that I stepped in for, not the other way around. But I think Haqparast showed like quick adaptability there. What's his record here? He's 13-3 in the lightweight division. I think they were talking him up a little bit coming into this fight. So let's see what's it looking like for him after this. But had it stayed close, I think had it stayed close and Haqparast still won, I think that would have been a little bit of a ding on him versus on Garcia. But given that how much stronger he got as it continued, even though there was 2 29-28s, I think this is overall still a very favorable outcome for him. Obviously, he got the W, but just as an overall performance, I think big tip of the cap to him.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man.
So props to him. Let's see what happens with him. And prior to that, kind of a dull one for me. I didn't care too much for this one. Women's flyweight, Courtney Casey, JJ Aldrich. I had Courtney Casey. I thought Courtney won. You said, no, you clearly had JJ because you said you initially thought Courtney won too, but then you kind of got another look at it and you thought JJ took it. I got to be honest, I don't really care. It was freaking boring as hell to me. But yeah.
Well, the thing is with this one, wait, did I think I was talking about a different fight now, and I don't have anything like that in my notes here.
Because I had messaged you. I was like, because they announced the result.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, well, that was BS. And you're like, no, I think JJ took that.
Yeah, in the third. So let's see. Good round one from both. Aldridge more timid towards the end, after not being able to secure first takedown. Casey woke up, big punches, good grappling. Good round two takedowns by Aldridge, some submission attempts. She looked sluggish on her feet. Good trades in round three, and Aldridge needed more takedowns and more control time in the third. So, yeah, I don't know why I said that to you, but I was a little surprised, I guess. I mean, I had
maybe the proper 12 was doing its trick.
Yeah, no, I had M&Ms on that one, so it was it was my bias, man.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I really don't have anything else to add on that. I remember watching that fight. I was like, I hope this ends soon. Then, unfortunately, went to decision. And prior to that, we had Gloria DePaula, Jin Yufrey. I think we both had DePaula on this one.
Yep.
She kind of was disappointing. I think round one, was clearly for Yufrey. Round two, I think Gloria got it back, and then round three, she just lost it. Let me check the judges' scoring because that's how I remember. Let me see if it was like that.
So
yeah, judges had it the same exact way. 10 rounds 1 and 3 to Frey, and round 2 for DePaula for all three judges.
Well, so Frey completely dominated her on the ground. DePaula just couldn't do anything.
Almost 10 minutes of control time.
Yeah, it was nuts, man. And the whole time I'm screaming at the TV, like, you need to stand up, you need to stand up. And there was a moment in the third where Paula looked like she was going for a Kimura. And I'm looking at it going like, okay, but I don't know if you're going to be able to, you're going to be able to complete that. Maybe you should use that as leverage to stand up. And she didn't. She tried to go for the full Kimura, and DeFrey managed to escape from that. And that sealed DePaula's fate, I think, because if she had taken that third by being a little bit more cautious because her round 2 was excellent. She, on her feet, she was destroying Frey. She let herself get takedown, and that was the end of it. There was nothing to be done because she had no ground game at all. Interesting little tidbit. DePaula's girlfriend's with Mayra Bueno Silva, actually.
They mentioned that when the fights, she fought last week, right? Or was it the week prior?
I think it was last week, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because as she was walking in, they mentioned that. I was like, Bueno Silva, we just saw her fight.
Mm-hmm.
Who did she fight?
Bueno Silva fought De La Rosa to a draw. It was on the Rosenstrick card, so the fight before.
No wonder that sounded so. That was the one I had some Skittles on too, and that's the one that went to draw. She's the one that lost the point. That was the one where the fence grab.
Yeah.
Ugh, dumb. Yeah. Yeah. Now I remember. Now I'm slightly annoyed remembering that again. It always surprises me. It's anytime there's a Brazilian guy or girl fighting, when they don't utilize a ground game, I always assume they're going to use something on the ground. Like, I didn't know who DePaula was. I didn't do research on her. Didn't really care. But I see the Brazilian flag. I'm like, she's probably got a ground game. Didn't do shit on the ground.
Well, it's not even that she didn't do shit. She couldn't do anything. She was so out-dominated that even if she did have a ground game, it wasn't even close to being as good as Frey's. So that's what had me surprised, actually. I mean, and then when she was on her feet, she was doing excellent. So that was another weird surprise because, I mean, I think it's rare that you see a lot of like Brazilians go toe-to-toe like that. Because like you said, they tend to like that ground game, that jiu-jitsu.
Or at least have the ability.
Yeah.
Even if it's not their go-to, they have the ability to do something there.
Yeah. No,
maybe she does, but just Frey really, really neutralized it well. I don't know.
I think that's what
it
didn't
was. Didn't look like she had it. Well, props to Frey. And then the opening fight of the entire card, a quick banger. Man. Yeah, Semelsberger against Witt. I had Witt based on his last performance. Not that Semelsberger had a bad one, but Witt looked pretty. He had a nasty submission against, I think he had an arm triangle. I can't remember who he was fighting, but he picked the guy up, walked him across. They just completely manhandled. They just slowly walked him across and just brought him down and then choked him out.
Yep.
And I believe Semelsberger's background is more on the feet versus on the ground. So I just figured maybe Witt can get him down. And it was a pretty close line. I think I last saw it at like minus 120 for Semelsberger and then even for Witt. No, Witt didn't even get a chance to do anything. 20 seconds in, Semelsberger just put him to sleep and he got $50K for it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting we would get an awesome fight. I mean, this was awesome in its own way, but what more can we say, man? It was within, 16 seconds?
16 seconds. Sorry. Yeah.
It's freaking nuts, dude. It's nuts. Like, this card definitely delivered, man. We got to see some ridiculous knockouts, and
that's why, that kind of wraps up the fights, but that is unfortunate about this event was if those two on the main card, at least one of them, if at least only one was a no contest, this could have been a phenomenal card. I didn't think it was going to be a bad one. But I wasn't like, dude, we can't miss this. Like, there's no chance in hell we can miss this. Like, I didn't feel like that either. But I mean, from the get-go, again, the prelims were great too. Yeah.
Other than the Leon fight, there wasn't really anything on here that was like exciting for people that, let's say, dip in and out of MMA. Like, for us, we watch every single event.
Right.
So, I think we have a different perspective.
Even for like a person that doesn't tunes in for like McGregor type fights, there's no fight on here that is going to draw anyone, even the Leon Belal Muhammad one, especially given that Leon hasn't fought in a year and a half. It's like, wait, who? I saw this great meme a couple of weeks ago. It's that one with that little kid that it's like a Barney episode or something. He turns around, he's like, wait, who are you? And then it was pretty much like, it was saying like Leon Edwards said something, whatever it was. And then like the bottom of it was like that little kid. And then he has him turn around. I was like, wait, who are you? I was like, this is so perfect. Like, these guys the welterweights have probably forgotten who the hell this guy was, given that he's been MIA for so long. But I do think that one round that he did actually perform, he should have. If it didn't, it should have reminded the other welterweights who the hell he is. Because again, he looked super crisp in a very limited amount of time. Yeah, he looked really good. Yes, he's fighting someone that had only 3 weeks off, but he had 18 months off. So given everything, overall, he still looked super crisp. Because it's not like Muhammad's a scrub. Yeah, it was a short notice fight for Muhammad, but it's not like it's just some random off the street where they had to pull him out and throw him in. This is a guy who had a good performance his last fight. And I think had the fight gone longer, maybe he could have posed some kind of threat at some point. But where it was, he didn't. And I saw some people commenting responding to Muhammad, like, bro, you don't deserve that. You don't deserve to have that run back. Like, you were getting your ass kicked. It's like, he didn't get his ass kicked. He did decisively lose that first round for sure. He wasn't getting his ass kicked. And also, the fight was like 5.5 minutes in. Like, you don't know what the hell's going to happen after that. Like, if it was like 4.5 rounds in, and then that's different. But like, the fight had most of it yet to go still. So I don't think you can decisively say. No, I don't think you can't decisively say.
You can't.
He was going to lose.
Well, especially let's consider this. If you look at Belal Muhammad's, fight history, almost all of his fights end up going to decision. it's rare that you see him, finish somebody via KO or submission. They all go to the judges. So this would have been his first 5-rounder, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
In the UFC, it would have been his first 5-rounder in the UFC. And I think if anything, it would have been fantastic to see him tested in that manner. Like, can you go a full 5 rounds, and how would you perform going into those 5 rounds? And it would have been a great test for Leon as well. Like, how is he going to be able to make it through 5 rounds? How conditioned is he coming back after a 1.5-year hiatus? And I agree with you. I don't think people are giving Muhammad enough credit here. You don't know what would have happened because it wasn't like he was losing decisively the same way, like the Stewart fight, for example. There was no question that going into the end of round 1, Stewart was dead. So there was none of that happening in the Leon versus Muhammad fight. So people are going to be people, man. You're going to have people fanboy, the same way we allegedly fanboy over Mr. Covington. So I think it's just one of those things where you got to let people do what they're going to do.
Yeah. So I'm curious what happens with those two guys. The reason I agree with Leon in that I don't think this fight should be run back is because this wasn't the originally scheduled fight.
Yeah, I wouldn't
That's
run
the
it
main
back
thing
either.
for me. If this was already, when the Hamza fight was announced with Leon, from that, whenever that date was, instead of Hamza, it was Muhammad, yeah, run the fight back, sure. But this fight it happened quickly. And frankly, the only reason it didn't fall through is one, Dana, I'm pretty sure, is not going to want to have to get rid of a main event. The last one that I can remember off the top of my head was when our boy Shabazian was fighting Brunson. They were going to be the co-main. Holm was going to fight, I can't remember her name, I think Sedana, I don't remember who it was, but one of them got hurt. So they canned that one and they just bumped up Shabazian. That's the last one I can remember. That was 8 months ago or something, 9 months ago, whatever it was. So, and factor that, and also that Leon hadn't fought in forever. So that's why they really wanted to find someone. So yeah, props to Muhammad for stepping in. But no, I don't think there's a reason to run this back.
No, there's nothing.
And
to run back.
It's not because it's not like a slight to Muhammad by any means. It's just more. He was a stopgap. He was just there pretty much so the event didn't fall apart. It wasn't really because he earned his way there. Not that I don't think he was deserving of the fight, but maybe not at that point. And he was. He said it himself in an interview after he had already taken the fight to fight Edwards. He was saying like his last fight when he called out, I forgot who he called out. I think he called out Yi Jianlian. He said like I didn't want to waste a call out. Like a lot of these guys, like they win a fight and they go call out someone in the top 5 or they call out the champion. He's like, I wanted to keep it realistic. Like I was number whatever he was at the time. He's like, I just called out the guy that was in front of me because I felt like it was a fight that made sense. So given that, I think he also has the understanding of like. But also, he clearly didn't call out Leon or anyone in the top 5 too. So he has that understanding. He probably does some emotional reasoning for why after he's like, we got to run that back. And also, even outside of the emotional stuff for him too, it's like there's no closure in that. It's like I didn't lose, I didn't win, but I didn't lose. I had my eye poked out. Like no, like as a competitor, like for sure, let's do that again. So I understand his side of it. I just think from the UFC's vantage point, doesn't make sense. And again, like we were talking about earlier, this division is already like getting delayed with the top 5 as is. I don't think rebooking a 3 versus 14 is anything of a priority. Figure out how to rebook a 3 versus 1. Figure out how to get Colby to get off his ass. If you got to bump it up to add 50 grand to it or something, I don't know, do it. Figure it out. People will watch the fight. People are more likely, I would assume, to watch Colby Covington fight versus Leon Edwards fight. So if you have Colby Covington fighting Leon Edwards, people will fight. We'll watch it. If you have Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad, not as many people are going to watch it. If you have Leon Edwards fighting Stephen Thompson, not as many people will watch it. More people will watch Colby Covington, not because they're all big Colby Covington fans, but because there are big Colby Covington fans and there are a lot of Colby Covington haters. Leon Edwards is not that polarizing. Again, who is that guy? He hadn't fought in a 1.5 years. People had forgotten. So figure out how to book that, or Colby and someone else. Just get the top 5 going. Do something. Get some kind of movement there. If it's not Colby, if it's not Leon, Stephen Thompson, and the thing is, Burns just fought. I don't know when he wants to fight. So just figure something out. That division is too good to be in the situation that is in the top 5.
No, I agree with you 100%, man. I mean, speaking of, I'm going to jump a little bit. I'm sure we're going to wrap it up. But speaking of Brunson, I can't wait for next week's card, man. I want to see Kevin Holland.
Yeah, and on that one, Kevin Holland opened as the favorite, or if you, well, at least when I checked today, he was the favorite, minus 170. Brunson was plus 145. I do think Holland will win. I don't know about minus 170 because the last fight against Shabazian, Brunson was plus 270, which I thought was incredibly disrespectful and an absolute steal of a line. Now, I didn't want to bet against Shabazian, so I didn't jump on that. But when I saw him at plus 270, yeah. No, I thought, I'm like, this is a good value proposition here. Plus 270 for this guy. Like, I understand Shabazian had a loss at that point, but plus 270? Like, this makes no freaking sense. Now, plus 145, it's not as appetizing to jump on, nor would I. But I also think, like, because the thing with Brunson is this guy has beaten some top names and he's also lost to some random people. You don't know, like, I think at this point he's matured more than those times when he's had those losses where it's like, dude, really, you lost to this guy? So, and, they've been talking to each other. Kevin's going to be talking coming into that fight, but, this one's the toughest person I think Kevin's going to have fought. There's some people, I was talking to someone and he was like, you know what? No, I felt like Jacare was more of a difficult opponent. Yeah, maybe Jacare, a previous Jacare maybe would have been, but I feel like given the streak that Holland is on, this is the most difficult person he's going to be fighting.
I don't know about that, man. I mean, because if we just look at the age, right? They have a freaking 9-year gap. Brunson's 37, dude. This could be his retirement fight, pretty much.
No, it's not.
You don't think so? You don't think Kevin Holland's going to make him retire, man?
No, I mean, because again, look at you could have maybe said that again for the last fight against. Well, you also factor that Brunson's on a winning streak. I think that he's riding a 3 or 4 fight winning streak, but he fought. I mean, they were calling him the gatekeeper, right? After that, leading up to the fight against Edmund, because Edmund was riding hot. I think he was 11-0 overall, 4-0 or 5-0 in the UFC. He was number 9 at the time. Brunson was number 8. And they were calling Brunson the gatekeeper because it was going to be him that was holding back Shabazian from, entering the top 5, presumably, had he won. But he kept the gate closed, and he was saying after, like, don't call me the gatekeeper. Like, I'm not here holding any gates, And they were saying the same thing about Thompson. And they usually give that moniker because some of these, like, quote unquote older guys that are ranked kind of high, because it's like, well, what are they gonna like? Are they gonna actually contend, or are they just gonna stay ranked kind of high and then ultimately retire after a loss? I mean, I understand he's 37, but I don't think that necessarily will mean too much in this one.
I think it's going to mean a lot more than it has in other fights, especially considering how often Kevin Holland's fought. Because he's not hanging back. He's not fighting. Kevin Holland and he's hungry, dude. I think that hunger is, if anybody's doubting him, you're out of your mind, dude. This guy wants it all. He wants the money. He might not want the belt now, but as soon as he gets enough money, that's the next thing he's going to be hungering for. And so I don't think there's any stopping him, man. My gut says he's going to plow through Brunson, and it's going to be like a bloodbath, dude. Kevin Holland's vicious.
It's a 5-rounder. So what's your prediction? How does Holland finish this? When does it end?
It's hard to say, man. I mean,
on the spot,
I think it'll probably go the distance is my gut. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll probably go the distance, and we'll see a decision in the 5th. Not because either of them lack stopping
strength.
Power. Yeah, not because they don't lack.
I get what you're
strength,
saying. Yeah,
but I think it'll go. Power. Yeah, knockout power, but I think it'll go because they're both good fighters. Just like you said, he's the gatekeeper, and Holland's the up and comer right now, I think so. Actually, sorry, Derek, I didn't mean to call you that.
He's gonna DM you, bro. Be careful. But yeah, I've been looking forward to this fight since they announced it. I originally was seeing they were speculating like February 27th for that fight. They got about a month pushed back, 2 weeks after, 2-3 weeks after that got pushed back or whatever. But glad it's happening. And when Holland was on Rogan, he's like, the only issue I'm having right now is this layoff between my fights. He fought December 12th, whatever it was, December 12th and 19th. He
loves staying active, man.
Yeah, he's like 3 months. He's like 3 months I haven't fought. He's like, for my mental health and for the well-being of the people around me, I got to keep fighting more than that.
I love it, dude. I love it. Because that's how I feel like you should be as a fighter. I mean, say what you will, but I think that if you're a fighter, this is what your life is about. You should be fighting that often. And if you're not, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Excuse my language. I'll edit that out.
If you have the ability, like as long as you're healthy, you're not hurt or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't get, because he's not being picky and choosy about his opponents. He's pretty much fighting whoever. Remember that one random guy he fought? The one where he like slammed him down, like almost like it looked like he broke his neck. Like that wasn't the original guy he was gonna fight. I think it was some other dude. That dude got hurt. I think this guy stepped in. I might be remembering that wrong, but like after that fight ended, you're like, yeah, why was that guy even fighting him? Just like, and that's why I appreciate Kevin Holland. He's like, dude, I'm here to get paid, man. I just want money. He's like, yeah, belts. He wasn't like, I think it was clear. He's like, I'm not chasing a belt yet. It's not that he doesn't want it, but he's like, I'm trying to get money here. So that's why he's like fighting whoever. And yeah, I can understand some of the skepticism for people that aren't fully sold on. I'm not saying I'm fully sold. I also don't think he's not good, but I can understand the kind of hesitancy of like, well, who has he fought that we're all, jumping on his hype train, which is fair. But also like this argument is made in all sports. Anytime like a team is on a winning streak, but if they've played like a bunch of like crappy teams, they're like, well, who have they beaten? It's like, sure, I understand that. But again, as a competitor, whether it be a team or individual sport, if you're matched up against a team or a player, you're supposed to beat them, aren't you? So if you beat them, whether they're good or not, you beat them, right? So if you have a few people in a row that aren't good or aren't as known, but you beat them, why should that be a slight against you? It's like you fought who was in front of you, you beat them.
Oh, for sure. Well, and I'm not saying that he should be getting a title fight or anything like that.
No, I know you're not, but this is the argument I've seen against him. Again, I'm not saying this guy should be fighting Adesanya should he win this fight, but also I don't think he's like a bum either.
No, he's definitely not a bum, man. Otherwise, he wouldn't be freaking 21-5. That's not a bad record, dude. Don't look at people like Usman or at Adesanya with some of these. Those are peak performance athletes, Kevin Holland's not a chump, though. He's had a few losses. Okay. No, maybe at this pace, the pace that this guy's fighting, he's going to have more fights under his belt by the end of this year than some of these fighters had their entire careers. Like that's something to keep your eye on, man. Don't sleep on that.
And the last thing I'll kind of end on with Holland is his last year, his first fight was in May, if I'm not mistaken. So he fought in May, and he still had 5 fights. He's starting a little bit earlier this year. He's starting in March. I don't know if he'll get 5 fights again, because now that he's actually ranked and he's getting up there, it's probably going to be a little bit harder for him to get those matchups.
I don't know, dude. He might be like, I'll take anybody lower than me too. Let's go. He might,
but at once maybe he starts getting a little bit of a championship taste, getting close, he might start being a little bit selective. And he might not be. Let's see what he does. I'm not saying he will, but it's possible. If he stays true to the I'm all about the money, then yeah, he might take those fights of fighting someone below him. If he beats this, he's probably gonna he wins this fight. He's leapfrogging. Well, he's already leapfrogged our boy. Never mind. He's already ranked above Shabazian. Disregard that. But maybe he takes that fight, because I don't know who the hell that guy's gonna fight.
There's an interesting question that pops up in my mind. It's kind of like UFC unrelated. Like we could even say the same for boxing or any other like combat sports. It's interesting to me when, like, let's say you're the champion and you got there because you're the best of the best, allegedly, right? Like, why wouldn't you just take any fight that comes your way? Like in my mind, I get it. Bear with me here. I understand why you wouldn't, for physical reasons and stuff, but it's like, I shouldn't have to be concerned about, oh, this guy's a nobody, blah, blah. Well, I can prove that he's a nobody in less than a round type of situation. Does that make sense? Like if some no-ranked person is just coming in. I get what
you're saying.
Like, yeah, I'll take that fight and I'll make you know that you have to work your way up. It's going to take me 30 seconds to teach you no. Right? Like,
I think it's probably the promotability of the fight. Like if it's like if Brunson were to fight Adesanya, Like that's the title fight. I don't think that many people are going to care.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, we'll watch it, but versus Adesanya fighting Blachowicz or Adesanya having fought Costa, even Costa, like that's why they usually will have closer ones. In addition to that, convince the champion to fight someone. Yeah, part of it is that physical reason of risking injury, but I think it's also the humiliation. It's like, man, what if I lose? Like, I'm not necessarily thinking. Yeah, but that's bad, right? It looks worse if you lose to the number 2 ranked guy versus if you lose to like the number 8th ranked guy for the title versus the number 2 versus. But in addition to that, you also will have 1 through 7 being like, well, what the hell? Why is number 8 fighting him? So there's that side of it too.
Should be a free for all, man. Just complete chaos, and whoever fights gets the fight, and just
first the signature on the line.
Yeah, the rankings don't make any sense. It's just I don't know what's happening. These people
it's like
are
an
animals.
eBay auction. They open it up for like 2 minutes. Whoever's the last person to sign this, you get it.
You throw a couple fighters into the octagon, only one pair of gloves, and whoever gets to those first, they get to win.
Doors locked.
Yeah.
And they raise the octagon. You can't hop over it either.
I don't know, man. I'm looking forward to next week. I think it's going to be a good one. Don't sleep on Kevin Holland, man. And,
No, and there's in addition to the Holland and Brunson fight, looking forward to seeing Adrian Yanez. By name, you might not remember him, but he won a contract from the Contender Series. I think he's had 2 fights since. This guy's got some scary knockout power. Bantamweight, again, talk about this division each time we record, but looking forward to seeing him back in the ring. He's fighting Gustavo Lopez. I don't know if I have familiarity with this guy. I'll take Yanez anyway, and the lines suggest the same. Another name that looks familiar is Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles was the guy that was, I think, also going to fight Kevin Holland that one event. I think it was on the Shabazian card maybe. But then remember someone had like heart issues or something. They like passed out.
Oh yeah,
this was a few months ago. If I'm not mistaken, that was Trevin Giles. I don't remember if he's fought since or not, but he'll be there. And looking at the other names, none is standing out. I mean, we have a couple of fatty patties fighting. Ty Tuivasa, Dontel Mays. We've seen Ty fight. Just don't really care that much for these big boys. Gregor, Gillespie, and Brad Riddell. Unfortunately, I don't think I remember Gillespie, which that's my casual coming out. Brad Riddell sounds familiar, but I don't know. So we have a 13-1 versus 9-1 as the co-main. So a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 fights, 12, 13 fights. Again, UFC is really churning them out, man. We had 15 fights last week. We had 13 fights, 15 fights the week prior, 13 fights this past event, and we have another 12, 13 coming up here. And the month will conclude with the pay-per-view of Miocic versus Ngannou 2. And also before that, you have the fight right before that is Volkanovski and Ortega for the featherweight title. Month's going to end strong. We have two great events to look forward to.
Yeah.
And we might also see Woodley retire or get sent to retirement.
Yeah.
That probably should happen, but
I think it will.
Man, I'm looking at this main card right now for 261, and it's beautiful. We'll talk about it. We won't go into it now, but we'll talk about that leading up to it. Maybe next week we'll discuss it more. Andrew, any parting thoughts before we sign off?
No. I just think that the same thing I always say. These judges need to get their stuff together, man. It's getting really annoying, dude.
At least no 10-8s were thrown around liberally this time.
Yeah, I know, man. Jesus.
Some marginal improvement.
10-7 on one of those. Was it the last week one? I think it was a 30-20. No. It was a 30-26 or 30-25.
Yeah, there was 2 10-8s.
Oh, there you go.
That was for Tim Elliott, I believe.
I don't know how to do math, so
yeah,
I didn't graduate.
It's all right. We won't hold it against you. All right, then. Until next week, we'll see what the outcome of this Holland and Brunson main event is, and the card in its entirety. Till then, thanks, Andrew.